Welcome to a new guide on this channel, and on this occasion is the VOLCA Sample 2. Now this is not a review, it's a complete deep dive guide about this device. Now everything on this guide is in chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and if you have the money, you can buy me a coffee. Everything is on the description. Okay, so let's just begin with some common knowledge. Now, I'm using a library free from KORG called the Sun Lounge or something like that. So I'm going to be using that library. It's free. You can get it from KORG. So this device can store up to 16 patterns. You have 1 and you have 16. That's the amount of patterns you can do. And each sound can use 10 sounds. That's why right here at the bottom, it says part and you have 10. Since you can play 16 patterns, you can hold memory right there. It says memory, but then it says write. Depends on what you're doing with the function. You're going to be enabling memory or doing write. But in this case, if you're not holding function, you can go to memory and all the lights will go on because it's showing you the patterns that you can play. And right here, you can select the pattern 5 or maybe the 1 and so on and so on. So if I play it back, now it's playing the pattern number 1. Maybe I want to play the pattern number 5 or, whatever. This one, I'm going to go there and just do play. And we have a different pattern. Now you can do this while playback. When you hold memory, it's just blinking and showing you that you're playing the number 5. But maybe you want to change it to the number 2 or so on and so on and, so on. So when you're playing back a pattern, you can change the tempo. You can go faster, and right there it will tell you how much you're doing, and you can go crazy high or crazy low. Right? You can go to slow rates, to slow tempo, or just fast tempo. Completely up to you. Right here you have your volume. You can go down in volume if you wish, or you can go up in volume if you wish. All of this is just pretty obvious, I know, but still I need to cover this. So here you have something called isolator, and this is maybe not so obvious. Now this is going to be a boost and a cut. I'm going to be doing some playing. Now right here when you move the knobs, they have a breakpoint right there in the middle. And that's like 0. You're doing nothing. And right now on the bass, I'm at 0. If I go to this side, what we are doing, we are chopping the lows. But if you want to boost the bass, you're gonna get up to 6 dBs of boost. Right? You can hear that. And this one is going to be the same. If I go this way, we are chopping the highs. But if I go the other way, I'm boosting the highs. So you might have, something very dull. You want to bring a little bit of brightness and a little bit of bottom, and you get it. Right, so that's why it's, that's why we have the isolator. So in terms of battery, as soon as when you turn it off like that and you turn it back on, if you're not using this and you're using batteries, it will tell you with the lights how much battery you have left. 16 is going to be top. When you turn it on, it's going to tell you. Now, since I'm using the AC adapter, this is not happening. It will not tell me how much battery I have left. But, if you're using batteries, it will tell you there. Another thing that happens is that when you're using batteries and you're running low, it will tell you right here, battery low, it's going to say BT low. But if you're using the AC adapter, this feature is not enabled. Still, if you don't use it for 4 hours, give or take, this will go off automatically. So in conclusion, you can have 16 patterns. You can memory and select the different 16 patterns. On each pattern, you can use up to 10 different samples or parts. And this device is called part and parts. Right? And but on the whole device, you can store up to 200 samples. Now, remember, this has a limited memory, so you can run out of memory before reaching the 200 because maybe your samples take too much space. Now, still, when you're uploading through the library, which is when you connect it through USB and you open the software, it will tell you the size of each sample and how much memory you have left. So I'm going to go right there and I'm going to load the first pattern. This is what we have from before, from factory, in this case, the pack I'm using. So every time that you want to work with a pattern, you need to select the different samples that you want to work with. Now, how do you do that? Well, right there, if this light is on, it means that we are standing on the part number 5, or we go there, we are standing on the number 1 or 2, and so on and so on. Remember, you have up to 10. So when you do this, it means that you are standing on this part, and this part is called the sample selector. So what you can do right here, if you're standing right here, there, let me go maybe to the number 5. Right here, you can change the sample with this knob. This is the sample selector. So if I keep playing it and toggle this knob, it's a little bit small, you know, but you can toggle it and you can see that you have a lot of different samples, right? So once you select that sample, let's say this one, this sample, that sound is going to live within this pattern. And if I play it, maybe if this one was playing, there we go. It's going to sound a little bit different because we are using a different sample now. We changed it. Now, still, when you do this, if you don't save the pattern, you're going to lose it. If I go out of maybe to a different pattern, or even if I load the same pattern, I'm going to be playing that and we are back to the beginning. So every change that you make, you need to save it. If not, you're going to lose it. So on each sample, you have a start point, a length, and a high cut, because of course, this is a sampler. You can't do this. So I'm going to be selecting something else, something that has a tail. Maybe something like that. Sounds fine. I'm going to go up this one. I'm going to talk about that one. So this is my sound. So right here, you can select the starting point of that sample. Maybe we don't want to start at the very beginning, so we can offset it. And we are starting, you know, after the beginning of the sample. And we just get the tail. Now, if you go all the way to the beginning, you're starting right from the start. Now, always when you load the sample, the length, you know, how long the sample is going to be the original sample length, you know, 100%, always 100%. So notice it sounds the same. Now, as I go back, the length, of course, of the sample is just going to be less. So we are chopping the tail instead of the beginning. So this chops the beginning, and this one chops the end, right? So all of this is just very, you know, common sampler options. And the same thing right here, you get a high cut, and you can chop high frequencies. This is not messing with the sample, it's just a, you know, just a high cut, just an EQ. If it's too bright, you can just chop the highs a little bit more. So that's it. That's the sampler selector. Now, there's one more thing that this does, which is a special function, and I believe that you only get it with the VOLCA Sampler 2. You don't get it with 1. So what you can do, you can delay the playback of the sample. So right here, I'm going to start playing it. But this one, when you hold function and you go to starting point, instead of shifting the starting point, is going to delay the playback of this sound. And if I move it, notice it says DLY. And if I go all the way, maybe too aggressive, you know, all the way up, I'm going to be playing it and it's going to delay it. The thing is that when we play it back, that sound is going to be delayed. And notice that it's a little bit offset, and it's because we just delayed this, the way we delayed it. Now, if I do the same thing and go back, it's going to sound a little bit more normal. Now it sounds right in the point, right? Right in the pocket. If I delay it, it's just a little bit, you know, off. You can do that. It's a nice trick. So you have two different modes, recording live or normal step sequence mode. Now, first we're going to talk about the normal step sequence, because we can do a lot of things right here and we are stopping on every single part. So it's a little bit easier to understand. And once you understand how the step mode works, all the other modes are going to be really, really simple. Now, if on the display it says live, it's because you're standing on the live record. And remember, we have live and we have step record. So when you go right there, notice it says step mode. As soon as I toggle this, is going to stand you on the step record mode. And again, just toggling back is going to go to live or step record. Now, also this one is called edit mode. And we will talk about that in a minute. Now, before we can even start, we need to select the pattern where we want to work with. I'm going to be using the number 1. Now, this pattern already has some data. Now, it would be wonderful. We start clean. We delete all the steps and everything that lives within this pattern. Well, you need to go to function, and right there at the bottom, it says clear and it says all. So you hold function and then you tap on the all and it's going to clear everything. Now, if I play it back, we get nothing. Still, this will not delete the whole pattern from memory. It's just deleting it on the temporal memory. So if I go function and I tap it again, it's going to do an undo, and you will get back the sequence that you just, the pattern that you just erased. Now, there's one tiny thing that you need to know. When you do this, when you clear all, right, and you go to step mode and you make some changes, you cannot go back to the same sequence that you erased because you changed it. So you cannot go back. And I'm going to prove it right now. If I do something like that, that doesn't matter. I'm going to be playing back. You're going to get something like that. And I'm going to go function. And I'm going to do this. And it will not do an undo. It will do a clear all. So if I play it, it's just clearing these steps that we added. Still, you're not losing your sequence. You can go to function right here to memory, go out, or just load the same pattern that you had before. And you're going to get it back. And I'm telling you this because sometimes it's a little bit confusing. You're going to be working, doing something, you do clear all, then you start working, and maybe you realize that what you did is crap, and you want to go back to what you had from before. If you didn't save it, if you didn't save the pattern, well, you can always load it back if you, again, never changed it. So you get it back. Right, but now we want to create a new sequence and we want to do something new. So I'm going to go to function and I'm going to clear all, and if I play back, we have nothing. So remember, we have 16 steps per sequence, it's going to last 16 steps. And each part, each sample can, play on the 16 steps. We have 8 voices with this device. So how, the step mode, it's going to work. So as soon as I go to step mode, you need to take a look at the lights at the bottom. This means that you're standing on the sound number 5. If I go out, the sound number 5 is going to be that. So I'm going to be going maybe to a kick, which is going to be the part number 1. So if I go right there on step mode, now this is waiting for us to add the step for this sound, the one where we are standing. So if I wanted to do a 4 in the floor, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that, and then I play it back, and we get a 4 in the floor. I'm going to go a little bit faster. Right, it's that simple. You just stand on the sound or the part where you want to be adding steps, and then you just add the steps. By tapping the same, you can just remove it or add it again. Now, let's say that I want to add the snare. Now, right now, we are standing on the step mode. So if I wanted to go to the snare, maybe it's on the part number 4. Well, this is not going to work. This is just adding a new step, a new step for the part 1. What you need to do, and you have 2 ways of doing this, you can go out of the step mode, and then while you're playing or without playing, you can just play the other parts and just find the sound that you want. And I'm going to be using this one, the clap. Then you go back to step mode and notice that you're standing on the number 3. As soon as you go there, of course, there's nothing going on the part number 3. So you add your sound, and that is just going to do the magic. Now, there's an easier way. What if you want to add a sound, a part that you already know which one it is, but you don't want to get out of here? You don't want to get out of the step mode. I'm going to be holding function. So when you hold function and I select a different part, it's going to stand on that part without adding a step for the one we had selected. So let's say it's going to be the 7. Now we are standing on the 7. Right? So we can easily switch through different parts. And we can add, something right there. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. Maybe that's not the best sound. So you can go off. Maybe I can go to see what we have on the number 5. All right, that's fine. So this function and selecting or switching the part or selecting a different part, usually on sampler land, it's called the silent selection or quiet selection. That's the name. Still, if you don't want to do anything, you don't want to add steps, and you want to play it live, you can play your sequence and play at the top without, with no consequences. So that's it. That's the way you create patterns on step mode. You just enable it, you select the sound, maybe with function, you add the different steps. Now, when you go to, maybe you stand on this step, it will show you where you added that step on with this part, right? If I toggle to this one, we have nothing on that one. We have the clap right there. And I believe on the 5, we have that one right there. So you can easily toggle through the different parts and just change it. Now, one other thing that you can do right here, notice that it says part and you have a left and a right. So this means that even, if you don't want to hold function, but this one, you can move through the different parts forwards or, backwards. So let's say I want to stand on the number on the kick. I'm just gonna, go down to the kick, and I'm gonna be adding something else. That's fine. All right? So you have several ways of, going through the step mode and audition your different parts. So then you have the live performance, which is the other way, the other one that it's not step mode. And this one is pretty simple. I'm going to be starting with a clear sequence. I'm going to go to clear, function, and I'm going to clear all. So if I play it back, we have nothing. Now, the thing is that when you record live, you have no click track. So, it would be idea to sync this to a click track or do something like that. But in this case, you don't have it. Now, what you can do, maybe if you want it, you can go to step mode and maybe just add steps for your, your fundamental. In this case, it's going to be the 4 on the floor. So now I know where I'm standing if I play it live. I'm going to go out of step mode. How can you record live? Well, right there when you play it, we just play the different parts. The only thing you need to do is to enable rec. So when you play the part, it's going to be recording it. Now without rec, you're just auditioning. So if I go and do rec, that's going to be stored. Now if you want again to audition a different part, you go out of rec and you just find or just look for the sample. The sample that you want. Maybe kind of. All right, that's fine. That's it. That's the only thing you need to do. Gonna be doing that. That's it. You just enable record and you just record it. Now this doesn't mean that the step mode now it's useless. Step mode, it's gonna be working now. If you work on live recording, you can go to step mode and edit whatever it is that you did. And same as before, than before. You can just go to function, select a different part, edit whatever you did on live record, or just use the parts to go up and down through the whole sequence, all the different parts, and just make changes, right? So you can, you still use the step mode. Now let's say I want to go to step mode and I want to delete this one, right? So this means that you need to go to step mode and you can just erase everything that you did, which is fine. But the thing is that you need to go to step mode and you need to manually do it. And sometimes it sucks, doing it manually. So you have a different function for this. So let's say that this is the part that we want to delete, this one, right? Where we have it right there. So, but we don't want to do it on step mode. I'm going to be doing playing. So if you take a look at the function and we go right there at the bottom, it says all. Now then it says part. So what you can do, you can clear a part instead of deleting the whole damn thing. So we are standing on the part where we want to erase. So you can go to function and you can clear that part. Now this one works just like the all. If you repent, you can go to function, tap it again, and you're going to be getting it back. Right? Now still, just like, the function and clear all, if you make some changes, you're not going to be able to get it back for that part. So, that's the live record in a nutshell. You just do play, you just do rec, and you record whatever it is that you want. And if you're not happy with it, you just can delete all and start over. So as you can see, you have different modes, different ways of creating the patterns, the step mode or the live performance mode. Now you have a new mode, a different mode, which is going to be step rec. And this one is a little bit different. So when you are going to be going to the pattern number 1, I'm going to make sure that we have nothing right there. And if you go function and you do step rec, they're going to start blinking. So this means that you are in step rec mode. Now this one is a little bit special, but it will do essentially, it will stand you on step number 1 by default. This is, not the sound. It's just going to be standing on the step number 1. And as soon as you add a sound, it's going to move to the step number 2. You add another sound, it's going to go to the 3, the 4, so on until you complete the sequence, and it's going to go on a loop. So right now, let's say this is the number 1. I'm going to be playing a kick. I'm going to do it, and it's going to move to the number 2. And I'm going to be doing the same, and just, to show you how this works. Every time I add a sound, it's just moving forward until you just finish the sequence. So you go out of the function and you play it, and it's just gonna, sound like that because you add a sound on each of the steps, which is cool, but sometimes it's a little bit uncontrollable. So I'm gonna be doing clear and I'm gonna enter the step record again. Now, right here, how this works is a one thing only type of a deal. So when you play sound, that sound, when you play a part, that part is going to be part of the step number one. It's going to be inside of step number one. Now, if you add one single thing, it's going to be one single thing. So on this one, what you will need to do when you go in step by step, you will need to play it like a keyboard. Let's say I want to, let me go out of here. I want the kick, and maybe I want something like this. I want both of, these two parts on the same step. So I'm going to go there, and we need to do it like that. If not, it's just not going to work. If I go out of the step rack, notice that now we get it. So sometimes, it's a little bit tricky because you need to play multiple parts at the same time with your fingers. I'm going to start clear again, and I'm going to go to step rack again. What if you want to skip a part and just, do nothing? Well, that's why you have the parts right here. So I'm going to be recording a step, a kick right there. I don't want anything right here. I don't want anything right here. So I can move to the next one, move to the next one, and then move to the next one. I'm going to be adding a kick right there and just, do the same deal. I'm going to add a kick. I'm going to go there and just add a kick, and that's it. I'm going to go out and play it. And now we have, just the four in the floor. Now, still, when you are standing on the step rack, when you toggle, when you move up and down through the different steps, it's going to play back after you go out of that step. Notice that we have a kick right there. As soon as I go there, I'm not getting it. But when I get out to the next step or the previous step, it's just playing the sample back. Right? And this is a nice way for this, to tell you what you have on, what information you have on that step. So if I go all the way back to the beginning, playing the play button is the same or equal as doing the forwards. Right? So notice that it's advancing and it's just the same thing. It's just, the same function. Now, still, the rec has a different function. Now, on this step, we recorded something. I'm going to do something like that. So I know that on this step, I have 3 different sounds. What if I wanted to delete them all? Well, you will need to do rec and it will just delete them all. And if I go back, it's just going to, delete it. Now, again, you need to remember that you cannot stack different sounds. Let's say I'm going to be adding a kick right there. It's going to move on to the next step. So if I go back, we know that we have that kick, right? And let's say I want to add a kick and I want to add snare. Well, this mode will not stack different voices or different parts. If I do something like that and I go back, it erased the kick. But, now it's playing this. So you need to remember that you cannot do this. You need to play, multiple keys at the same time. So you have a mute and a solo function. So if I play it right here, everything is going to play, right? Now, if you press and hold right here, it says mute and solo. So if I press and hold, the mute is going to show you all the different parts that you have on this pattern. 1 till 10. So since you're standing on the mute, it means that when you tap it, it will mute that part from the sequence, just muting that voice. And you can do something like that, just mute it all. And we're just going to get the 7, 8, 9, and 10. And if I mute everything, we just get nothing. Still, it's playing it back, but all the different voices are muted. So you can just, enable and just do a part and maybe, mute a single part if you wish. Now then you have the same but the opposite, the other side. What you could do, you can solo instead of muting. If you hold function and you hold the mute solo, now instead of doing the mute, it's going to solo. So it's the same but the opposite. If I play on this one or tap on that one, now the part number 5 is going to be soloed. So we just get that one. It's going to mute everything else and just give you that. If you tap it back, it's just going to unsolo this. Right? So pretty simple and easy to understand. Now, this is a really cool feature when you're creating a pattern. Maybe it's a BC, kind of a pattern, and you can mute the different parts to make your changes or solo the different parts just to audition what maybe this one is doing it and just decide if you want to change something, right? So it's just a great thing. Okay, so let's talk about the pitch, which is going to be the section that we have right here. We already talked about the sample, now we need to talk about the pitch. So I'm going to be standing on the, I don't know, a different sequence, a different pattern, maybe the 16. Just going to be a little bit different, just to change it, because I'm just getting bored of the first one. Right, so with the pitch, it's all about pitch, it's all about that. So I'm going to be going maybe find a sample, you know, something that we can pitch down. I'm going to be using this one, and I'm going to go up in level. Let me just go there. Right, so this is the sample, right? So right here, when you play it, you can change the speed. So the speed will make the sample change the pitch. Now, when you do this, it's going to show you right there how much you're doing. And you can pitch up, or you can go down. Now, still, sometimes this is a little bit uncontrollable because you cannot go in semitones, or you cannot do this. And of course, always depends on the sample. So what you could do, you can hold the function and you can move the speed knob. And when you do this, that sample is going to be detuned in units. So if let me just go back to, 0, I'm going to go back right there. I'm going to be playing it. We get that. And if I go to 1, I'm going to go to 3. Now it's a little bit more controllable, right? But you need to do function in order to pitch it like this, right? So yeah, that's, another thing that you get. So then you have your envelope, and this is about modulation. It's envelope generator intensity. So you have an envelope to pitch up and then pitch down. It's just a modulation. Now, if you are doing nothing, maybe let's go to 0 right there. You're just doing no modulation. Now, if I go all the way up, just to show you how this works, you can, go into the in-betweens and not go really aggressive like I'm doing right now. What this will do, we will just pitch the sample up and down, following the instructions of the attack and the decay. So if I do it like that, it's going to be super quick because the attack by default is kind of all the way down. I'm going to be something like that. But if I go up, it means that now that we have a ramp, so it's going to go up in pitch much slower. So if I go all the way aggressive, it's just going up, right? And this is because we are doing this, we are going all the way up. Now, if you have a long sample, it's just going to be a better example. So this one, when we play, is going to go up in pitch, and the attack knob is how long it's going to take to get to the, to the highest pitch. Now then, what we need to decide is how we're going to be going back to the original pitch. That's going up and then going down. Going up and then down. Now still, the intensity is, how aggressive this is. We can go a little bit less. And now it's not so aggressive. We can go the other way and go to negatives. Now instead of pitching up, it's going to pitch down. Right? So really cool. And all of this, it depends on the sample that you're using. If you're using a very short sample, like a snare or something, very simple and very short, well, the envelope will not do much because it's super short. Now, if you have a longer type of sound, maybe a bass or synth, well, it's going to work a little bit better. So let me show you something else. I'm going to clear all. We are still using the same sounds that we had on that pattern. Right? So what I want to do, I want to show you that when you change this, it's going to affect a whole sequence. So if I go to step mode and I'm using that, and I'm going to be adding some steps right there, and I play it back, we get it. So when I change this, it's going to affect that part, and it's going to affect all the different steps on that part. Right? So if you change it, it doesn't matter. It's going to affect everything. Now, maybe you're thinking, is there a way we can, maybe change, do something on this one and then do something different on this step with the same part? Yes, we can. And that is called motion sequence. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So then you have the amp section. Now the amp is going to rule the volume. And of course, you can just go down in volume and you can go up in volume. And this will affect the whole sequence. If I load this again and I play it back, we can hear that sample, right? So if I go down in the level, it's completely silent, and in effect it's affecting the whole sequence. Yeah, you know, that part within the whole sequence. If I go really up, you're gonna be able to hear it. So again, this is the level, right? So I'm gonna go back and clear it, and again we can go up and we can go down. Now then you have the pan, so you can go all the way to the left, or you can go all the way to the right. Pretty understandable, right? Now, right here, just like the isolators, you do have a breakpoint when you move this, because sometimes it's a really, it's just a little bit hard to get to the center. Well, you have it's latching right there by default, so it's really easy to get there. Now, just like the EG int, you do have an attack and a decay at the end. Remember, this will rule the volume. So if I do some attack, I'm going to go all the way down. I'm going to be doing something like that. Notice that instead of just playing back the sample, we can hear that it's just rising. Right? It's just like entering smoothly. It's not starting the volume. We are not getting it right away, right? Now, let me go decay all the way up. And if I go up on the attack, it's going to smoothly go in. Now, the same thing is for the attack, how it's going to go out. If I go and maybe start aggressively, maybe I can add or shorten the decay. So now, maybe that was too much. There we go. Notice that it's just playing, and then it goes in volume down really aggressively because we have a short decay. If I go all the way up in decay, it's going to be pretty much the whole sample. So you can just make it shorter and just have it fade away. And we can maybe even go right there. So smoothly having the sample enter and then just fading away really quick. So I'm going to start with the clear sequence. I'm going to clear all. You know what? I'm going to go to 16 and we have that default sequence. I'm going to go to function, clear all, and we have that long sample. Now, this one's the 9 and the 10, what they will choke themselves. So we have this sample and we have this sample. Now this one, this is a little bit too long, right? It just has a long tail. Right, so what I want to do on this one, I'm going to go to step mode. I'm going to be adding it right there. So every time that we play it, it's going to be playing it. But since it's a long sample, it's going to last for, a certain amount of time that it's not super short. Right. So what's going to happen if I add the step number 9 after the playback of this one? I'm going to do that. I'm going to move to the number 9, and I'm going to be adding it right there. There we go. So what's happening right here is that the 9 is choking the number 10. Notice that the 9, it doesn't play anymore. This long, if I want to choke it right there, it's going to choke it. And it's because this device has a limited amount of voices. So every time that you add 10, it's going to play back. But when you play the number 9, it's going to choke the 10. Or if you're playing the 9 and then you play the 10, it's going to choke the number 9. That's why it says Alt right there. And this could be, used on a creative, with creative purposes. Let's say that you have a hat, you have a hi-hat, which is longer, and hat that it's just very short. So sometimes you want to maybe choke the long hat. Well, you're going to be assigning the hats to the 9 and the 10. So, but yeah, this work, they work as choke groups. If you know what choke groups are, you choke whatever other sample when you play back, the opposite sample. Okay, so motion sequence on this device is recording the changes to each part along the different steps. You can do this. Pretty simple. So I'm going to be going to maybe load the 16, which, we already have some sounds. And I'm going to be doing clear, so we can start with a clear pattern, right? Okay, so I'm going to go to step mode. You can do this live, of course, but first I'm going to show you in step mode. So let's say that we want to add a sample. First, maybe I'm going to be selecting something that it's a little bit obvious. Let me just... So I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to be using the number 10. So, okay, I'm going to go to step mode, and I'm going to be adding that sample. If I play it back, we just get it right there, right? Pretty simple. We already know this. So how can we record a motion sequence to the other steps if we're gonna use that sample, that part? So what you need to do, let's say that we want to add it right here. I'm gonna press and I'm gonna keep holding that part. So right there, everything that we have right here, you can modulate it, and that modulation, whatever change you do is going to be recorded as motion sequence for that step. So I'm gonna be changing the speed. And as soon as I do so, notice it starts blinking. And at the bottom, something that says motion rec or motion seek is going to be on. So before it was off. So we changed the speed. And again, this one is going to change the speed. Now let's say that we want to change the level a little bit more. And I'm going to be going right there. Going to go down there. As soon as I release it and I play it back, notice that it's just really different. And every time the sequence is playing that step, it's telling you recorded a motion sequence and we are modulating the speed and the level. Let's do it again. I'm going to go there. I'm going to be playing it right there. I'm going to be changing the speed right there at the bottom. I'm going to be changing the level, but I'm going to be changing the pan maybe all the way to the right. As soon as I release, I'm going to do the same. And you can do this, on and on. Maybe change the speed, change it to the other side. And I'm going to go there. I'm going to record this one, press and hold, remember? And as soon as you move it, it's going to be recording that, motion. Maybe I'm going to go back to the center. So yeah, that's, how it means. All of this, the EG int, the envelope and everything else is what you can modulate. As soon as I release it, I play it back. Every time that we are playing a change, it's going to show you right there what you did in terms of motion sequence. And this just takes the sampler, this device to a whole different level. Because with the same sound, you just can create different things. Right. Now, every time that you do this, all the changes, all the motion sequence that you recorded, it's going to belong to this sample. If I change it to this sample, and maybe I'm going to go to the first one and add a kick. I'm going to go there, just add a kick. The kick will, has its own space. So when I play it, on the kick, there's nothing. And as soon as I go to the step number 10, then it's showing, the changes right there. So everything lives on its own little universe. So I'm going to stand on the number 10 again, and I'm going to be playing it back. And we know that we have motion sequence enabled because everything is just blinking. So when you go and hold function, it says motion sequence on or off. So what we can do, we can just turn it off. And now it's off. It's not doing it anymore. It's because, again, you're just turning the motion sequence off. And if we do function and turn it on again, we get back what, we had from before. Just like the clear part and clear all, you have a clear motion sequence. So if you want to get rid of the motion sequence that you did on this part, you just do clear and it's kaboom. Now if you do it again, you're gonna get it back. So it works like the undo that we have on the clear part and the clear all. Gonna remove it and get it back. So can we do this while we do it live? Of course we can. So let's say that we want to do something like that. So I'm going to be recording this. Just going to enter record. And I'm going to do something like that. Now, what we are going to be doing is doing function and enable motion sequence for this part. Since we are still standing on record, I'm going to, go again to record, and I'm going to be moving the pitch. And notice it's remembering or recording the changes. And this will go off because it lasts only one single bar. And I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it with pan this time. I'm going to enable record, and I'm going to start moving the pan. It's going to record it, and when it's done, it's going to go off. And now it's, it's modulating the pan or recording or doing motion sequence on the pan. Let's do it on level. I'm going to enable this. I'm going to go down a level and then go up, and it's going to record it. Right? This is a pretty wonderful thing, very, very easy to do. So I'm going to go back to the sequence number 16, and I'm going to clear everything. We need to talk about the swing that we have right here, and it's pretty simple. We just have a swing. So we are going to be adding some swing to the even steps. And for now, just to show you, I'm going to be going to maybe maybe that sound. I'm going to go to step record and I'm going to add it to the 4. I'm going to be adding it to the 8, the 12, and the 16. And maybe I'm going to be standing on a kick so we can, know where we are. And I'm going to be adding a 4 in the floor. Simple as that. Right. So standing on that sound, and it doesn't matter, the swing works as a whole. It's going to shift the even steps. So if we do nothing of swing, nothing is going to happen. But when I move the swing up, notice that the hi-hat is a little bit offset. It's just moving closer to the kick, the first one. If I go all the way up, just a lot closer. And that's it. You're just doing swing. I feel like I don't need to explain anything. Swing, just swing. Now, the thing is that the swing has a different function. If I go right there and I hold the function and I go up in the swing, now it's going into negatives. So in this case, what it does is instead of going backwards, it's going forwards. It's going the opposite way. And that's, the tiny gotcha with the swing. You can do normal swing or just go backwards. Go the other way. Right, so that's it. So I'm going to stay on the step mode and I'm going to be standing on the kick right here. And I want to do the same thing that we did before. I'm going to add a 4 in the floor, just like that. If I play it back, it's going to sound something like it. It sounds more like a bass than a kick, but that's fine. So then what I want to do, I want to add something else like a hat. This one, I'm going to enter step mode and I'm going to be adding it maybe right here, here, and here. Right. So pretty simple. Now what I want to do, I want to reverse the playback of the hats. And this again works like the swing is a whole. You just cannot reverse this and not reverse this. It works as a whole. So what you need to do, you need to hold the function and then you go to reverse. It's right there. So function and reverse. As soon as you do this, notice that it's going to clear everything. It's not showing you what information you have on that sound. As soon as I release it, it's going to show you. So it means that the reverse, when you're standing on this mode, you can select which part is going to be played in reverse. We know that the number 3 is the hi-hat. So if I enable reverse for that one, every time that the hi-hat it's playing in reverse, right? Now you cannot, again, just like I told before, maybe play reverse on this one and not reverse on that one. So it works as a whole. If you reverse, you're going to be reversing the whole part. So if you want to, let's say you want to reverse the hat on this step, but not on this one, well, then you will need to duplicate the same sound and do a reverse on this one and, and not a reverse on that one. Now, still, this works as a whole. So every time that we do a reverse, it's going to do it. If I play it and I disable it, you get the hat or, not the reverse and not the reverse. Now, if I disable this one and I go and enable reversed on the first sound, which is going to be the bass dash kick, is going to sound a little bit weird. There's something at the back, and it's because, remember, the sample, it's being reversed. So now we are starting with the ending part of the sample. So we are playing the tail. Since this sound has a long tail, we just get pretty much silence. And every time it plays, let me just go and stand right there. Every time it plays, it's restarting the playback. So what you will need to do when you're standing on this sample, you will just need to adjust the length. And you just need to adjust the length or maybe even the starting point and so on, so you can get something, out of the reverse if you're using it. And again, if you don't want to reverse, hold function, go to reverse and just disable, and everything is just going to be pretty much the same. Right. Now then you have another function and it works just like this, and it's going to be the reverb. So let's say I want to add a reverb to the hats. I'm going to be standing on the hats, I believe is the number 3. Yeah, right there. So it works the same way. If I do this and I go to reverb, it's going to take us to the reverb selection, which part is going to have a reverb on it. So let's select the hats. As soon as I do that, now the hats have a reverb. And every part that you choose will, go into the reverb, whatever you want to call it. In this case, we are just doing the hat, and the bass dash kick is just not doing it. So right here you have the reverb mix. So if you want it all the way wet, it's just going to be all the way wet. but you can just select some in-betweens and just have a little bit of reverb on that hat. If you want to disable, hold the function, go to reverb, and just disable it, and the reverb is gone, right? But it's nice, this feature is just nice, just a nice addition. So you have 16 patterns. So holding memory, just like this, what you can do while holding different steps, you can play consecutive patterns. So if I do something like that, and I do maybe number 4, right? And I release this, I'm going to be playing it back. It's going to go to the first, then it's going to go to the second, then it's going to go to the third, then fourth, and then it's going to go back to the beginning. So this is what this can do. This is called chaining on this device. You just hold it, and you just, that right there is just telling us. You just hold it, and maybe you want to do 1 and 2, and it's just going to chain the different patterns. It's going to play a bar of this, a bar of the next one, and then go back. So this is how it works. And right now, here comes the warning. Now, on the VOLCA Sample 1, you had a different mode called song mode. Now, this has been replaced by the chain mode. This is what you can do with the chain. That's it. Now, on the VOLCA number 1, the song mode, what you could do, you just can, do the same, but maybe you could just maybe play this one, play this pattern, maybe 2 bars of this, 4 of that, 5 of this, and so on, and so on, and so on, which is a behavior, something that you get with the pocket operators, for example. So you could do that with the VOLCA Sample 1. It was called the song mode. And I'm telling you this because maybe this is highly important for you. Maybe you like to create or to chain patterns that way because you want to use it on a performance and it's really useful for you. So this one doesn't have that. It was replaced by the chain mode and you cannot do it. That's it, maybe again, it's super important, highly important for you. And if that's the case, maybe you want to keep your VOLCA sample number 1 or to buy the number 1. And maybe, just maybe, because a lot of, some people are complaining because they really use that mode. Not all people use that mode, but, the ones using that mode are really complaining about this. So maybe KORG can bring it back on a new firmware update. Okay, so let's talk about the step jump mode. I'm going to go to memory, load the 16. We already know that we have a pattern right there. So I'm going to stop it for now. So you have 2 different modes by default of step jump. The one that you have from factory and the one that you don't have from factory that you need to change accessing the globals of the device. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's really simple. But first, to enable jump mode, you will need to hold function and then go to step jump. So once you do so, it's going to start blinking. This means that you are in step jump. What is this? So I'm going to be playing this, right? And right now we have the default pattern. Nothing is happening. So on step jump, what it does, when you play a key, is going to loop over that step. So I'm going to go to the 5. Right? So it's just looping that step as I'm holding it. When I release it, it's just going to continue. And if I do, maybe not that one, this one, it's just going to loop that one. And so on, and so on, and so on. That's, step jump. It's pretty understandable. Now, you need to notice something. I'm going to go to the 5. And notice how the sequence goes, right? If I go to the number 5, it's going to be stuck on this step. And we know this. Now, I'm going to be releasing this, but the sequence will resume from whatever it was if we kept loading, looping the sample, the pattern. I play it back, it's going to resume from here, for example. I'm going to play it, loop it, and it's just playing back from there. Now it's starting from here when I release it. So whenever you loop, it remembers the order or where it was in time. And when you release it, it's going to keep going from there. Now, the other step jump mode, it means that when you play it right here and you release it, the playback is going to continue from this step, from that key. So, which is, again, not what is happening right now. As soon as I release it, it's going to start from something right here or maybe right here. How can we change this? Maybe I want it for the sample, the pattern to resume from that step. Well, for this, you're going to need to turn off your VOLCA sample. It's going to go off, and you need to hold the function. So when you hold function and you turn it on, it's going to enter the global configuration. And you pretty much have 2 options for each. So you need to go to the manual right now. You need to check it on the manual because all of the steps will be something when it's on or when it's off. So if I go all the way to the number 9 is the step jump mode. And by default, it's on. And this is what you get from factory. And it means that when you step jump on a step, it's going to keep going in the background. And then when you release it, it's just going to resume from what it is in the background. But if I turn it off, now it's going to be a different behavior. Now, when you make a change on the globals, in this case the 9, to confirm the changes, you need to do rec. If you want to cancel the changes, you need to do play. If I do rec, the changes are done, are accepted. So if I play maybe the 16 like we did before, I'm going to enable step jump mode. I'm going to go right there. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be looping the number 5. As soon as I release it, instead of continuing from a different spot, it's going to continue always from this. Right? So we can clearly see that. If I go over there, it's going to continue from this. And so on, and so on, and so on. Right? Now, if you don't like that behavior, you can always turn it off, hold function, turn it back on, and go to the number 9, which is the step jump mode. Enable N, enable on, turn it on is the default that you get, and then do rec and done. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the pattern number 16. I'm going to play it. And you know what? I'm going to go to a different one. I'm a little bit tired of that one. So we get this one. Cool, right? It's fine. So now we have something called active step mode. Now this one, what it will do, it will remove a step from the sequence, and it's not creating a rest. It's not about rests. A rest, what it will create a silent step. But this one, the active step mode, will remove that step, which will result in making the sequence longer. Instead of 16, you can have less. Okay, so let me just show you how this works. I'm going to do play, some playing back. So I'm going to go to function, and I'm going to do play. As soon as you go there, it's going to start, blinking. And it's showing you the 16 steps. So if I tap on this one, it's jumping this. It's just not playing it. So this step is not active anymore. So now, you notice it sounds a little bit funky, and it's because we are doing 15 steps now. This one is being just skipped. It's not the same as rests. If we are doing rests, this one will play, but it will play with the silence. And I can easily prove this. Let's say I'm going to do something like that. Now the sequence is much shorter, right? And we can make it even shorter, something like that. And now it's going to be 8 steps. Now when you do this, you can still, always go back to what you had from before. Well, now it's 8 steps. But you can just do something simple like that, just enable the back. You're not losing the data that you have on each step. So even if you go out by doing function and you go back to whatever you had, it's only going to play the active steps. You can easily go back to function, play, and just, enable the other steps. And then get out by doing function. You always get out of whatever, whatever mode you're in, you're always going to go out by doing function. So I'm going to go to the number 16, the one we had before, because I believe this one has loop on. So I'm going to go back to the 16. So what we can do, we can enable loop mode, and right there at the bottom, it says loop on and off. So we can turn it on or we can turn it off. And this what will do, it will make the part loop, and it will not respect the amount of steps. It's just not like that. It's just going to play the sample over and over and over and over. And if we, if I do something like that, if I play it, let me just select a sound. So I'm going to use that one. I'm going to use this one. This one is a good example. So when I go to function and I enable the loop, now it's on, and it's because, we are enabling for this sample, for this part. Now, if I play it, that is what happens. I just played it once. It's going to loop it over and over again. If I play it again, it's going to start looping it, and it's going to go down in volume at the end, when it ends. And all of this is about the EG. So everything that you have right here will modify how the loop behaves. So if I do something like that, and maybe I just trim the length of the sample, since now the sample is super long, it's super short, and this is not respecting this, it's just looping it over and over after sample ends, you're just going to get more repetitions. And if I make it longer, we are just going to get less repetitions on loop. So modifying all of these functions that you have right here, all of these params, is going to make the sample behave a little bit different. And that could be a really cool sound. Even just modifying the starting point. Right? Now, even the pitch is going to affect it. So yeah, so that's the trick. That's the loop mode. Now, right here, we have the amp. You know, we know what we can do with the pitch and the EG, but notice that this one, it's pretty long. When I play it, it's going to take a long time to go back to full silence. So we can manage this from the decay and the attack and decay of this sample. If I go down on the decay, now the repetitions are much shorter, right? So we have a shorter loop. If I go all the way up, you know, it's going to be very long, right? So if I make it shorter, it's going to last less. Now you can add this to the sequence and then do some motion sequence. This is gonna result in some very cool sounds. So I'm gonna go to step mode and maybe I'm gonna go to, first I'm gonna clear the sequence and we already know how to do this. I'm gonna go to step mode. I'm gonna do some 4 in the floor so we can know where we are. Right, so pretty cool. Again, it's the bass, it's not really a kick. So I'm gonna go right there. Maybe you want to do this, and remember, if you want to do loop mode on that sample, you just need to turn it on. Right, now it's on, so we can go back to step mode, and maybe I'm going to be doing it right there. And now you need to modify right here your sample. Something like that, maybe a little bit more tail. Maybe we can change the pitch and it's going to change the speed. But remember, we can do motion sequence. So maybe I'm going to be doing something like that. I'm going to enable it. And now we can do record. And kind of effed it up. Right? That's super cool. So I'm going to go to maybe the speed. Right. So again, this is just a very nice tool that you get just to create, again, just different sounds, just like we get with the motion sequence. What if you don't like it and you want to disable the loop? You go to function. If it's just on, it's because it's on. You just can disable it and it's just going to go back to the normal sample. Right. Right, so the last thing I need to show you is going to be the companion app. So right now, and it's the main difference between sample 1 and sample 2, and is that right here, you have your USB, so you can connect it now through USB. On the VOLCA sample number 1, you just need it to store and retrieve, put the samples or patterns right here, or just get them out through audio. But now you can do it through USB with the dedicated application. So let me just show you the app. This is going to be the app, and you have two sides, the samples and the patterns. And the only thing you need to do is just to receive, which is going to be doing it when you load the application. And then you can send it if you make some changes right here. Let's say I have some patterns stored in my computer. Well, I just can import the patterns or load the patterns. And then once I have them right here, I can send them and they will be sent to the VOLCA sample number 2. Same thing with the samples. Right here, you have the sample side and you have a lot of samples. You can just, know how the size, the length and everything else. And you just can, audition the different samples because you can remove them and you can add new ones. Then when you add them, you can send them to your device right here. So now it's just a little bit easier to do all of this, right? Just to manage your patterns, store them on your computer, adding different samples to your device. Now everything got a little bit easier. And the last thing is going to be right here at the top. It's going to tell you how much of your device memory you're using. So if you're reaching towards the end, it's just, you're gonna know it. It's gonna tell you right here. Okay, so we are done. So hopefully you learned something on this one. And if you like all this, you learned something, remember to like and subscribe. It's free, right? And if you have the money and you want to buy me a coffee just to say thanks, you can. Go to the links in the description and you have PayPal, you have Patreon if you want. If you want, you can be a 1-month patron. That's cool. And if not, you have YouTube thanks. All right, so see you on the next one.